Are you asking yourself, why did my spiritual awakening stop? Are you feeling stuck on your spiritual journey? You are not alone. Many people who come to me for awakening coaching are unknowingly blocking their progress. In this video, I'll reveal the 3 most common reasons your spiritual awakening has stopped and how to overcome these obstacles.
First, let's understand what spiritual awakening is. It's not a single linear journey, but a series of interlinked processes and learning modules. We work on different parts of our system simultaneously, often without realizing it. For example, in early awakening, we reprogram our lower mind, especially the unconscious ego, while also cleansing our physical body and removing blocks from our energetic system. Now, if we focus too much on one area and neglect another, our awakening will pause until we catch up on what we've missed. I call this an awakening block. And through my experience as an awakening coach, I've found that these blocks usually fall into one of 3 categories. The first block that I see, largely in people in the connection phase of awakening, is that you may need to do more inner work. By inner work, I mean untangling the issues and traumas we've been collecting as humans since we were born. For most people, conscious awakening kicks in once we've resolved about 50% of these issues. Before then, the mind is too fragile to handle the psychological impact of awakening. But even after we start the process, the expectation from the universe is that we'll continue working on ourselves. If we don't, our spiritual awakening will stop until we catch up. It's actually quite common for people to ease up on inner work during the connection phase of awakening, which is one of the early stages. During this phase, we become super connected to the universe, and our guides, our third eye and crown chakras, start to open, and we are given temporary access to higher selves. All of this can make us feel like we've reached a state of ascension. But actually, it's just a foretaste of what's to come. We still have to do the work. But because we feel like we're ascended, we often pull back on inner work during the connection phase. And when we do this, we become top-heavy. We might have abundant energy flowing through our third eye and crown chakras, but the lower 3 chakras, root, sacral, and solar plexus, remain blocked. This imbalance can be dangerous because it means we're not spiritually grounded, which leaves us open to spiritual attack, among other things. So, how do you know if you need to do more inner work? Well, I would look out for signs like old emotional patterns resurfacing or experiencing volatile moods. Also, if you find you're purging difficult emotions physically through uncontrolled crying or bursts of anger, this is also a sign. Finally, revisit a traumatic episode from your early life and see how you respond to it. If your emotional response is at a level 5 out of 10 or more, then you definitely need to do more inner work. In terms of what you can do, yoga, dance, and somatic movements are great to release trauma stored at the physical level. My clients also tell me good things about EFT, or tapping, and about EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Of course, you can also consider working with a therapist or spiritual coach to guide you through your inner work. The second common block I see, which causes awakenings to stop or slow down, is that you need to meditate. Now, if I'm being honest, you can get pretty far in the awakening process without meditating, but eventually it will create a block. This is especially true when we enter the spiritual dark night of the soul, which is the fourth stage of awakening. The spiritual dark night of the soul begins at 50% integration of the conscious mind and the higher self, and ends once we reach 65% integration. The only way to continue integration during the dark night is through meditation. If we don't meditate, we will deintegrate and exit the dark night of the soul the way we came in. In other words, we go backwards. If you're new to meditation, you can just start with short daily sessions and gradually work up to something longer. You can also use a mantra to close out unwanted thoughts and focus your attention on positive goals. Guided meditations are useful too, but combine them with DIY meditation for the best results. The third common block to awakening that I see is that your ego might be literally holding you back. This block is related to inner work, but it has a specific focus. Because even when we've done a lot of inner work and have come to terms with our past on a conscious level, most of us still have trauma buried deep in the unconscious mind. Unless we process this out, the ego will literally pull down on our tool of consciousness and prevent it from ascending until these issues are addressed. Through this work, I've discovered a phenomenon I call inner children. Because we don't just have one inner child, we have multiple inner children. To progress through our 3D lives and interact relatively normally, our ego fragments and creates additional personalities that hold on to bits of trauma from our past, or take on the burden of difficult emotions. These personalities are self-aware entities buried deep in the system. We see this phenomenon in its extreme version in cases of DID or dissociative identity disorder. This is what we used to call multiple personality disorder, and is usually the result of severe childhood abuse, such as ritualized sexual abuse conducted over a long period of time. But I've discovered, through working with my clients and in my own inner work, that anyone who has experienced any level of trauma contains these multiple personalities. It's just that they're buried much further down than in cases of DID. People are only becoming aware of them now because they're going through the spiritual awakening process and excavating deep down into lower mind. So, how do you know if your ego is blocking you? Well, if you've never had a clear connection with your guides, or it has faded out, or you feel yourself being pulled back into bad habits, even though you've been doing your inner work, or you lose interest in spiritual practice, these are signs your ego might be blocking your spiritual awakening, and that's why it feels like it's stopped. How do you address this? Really, it's about identifying the separate personalities in your system and working with them internally to help them release their trauma. You also need to negotiate with your primary inner child to convince them to allow your conscious mind to take overall control of your system. I also recommend holding family meetings during meditation and inviting your higher self to join and spend time with you and your inner children. It's important to listen to the concerns of your lower mind personalities and reassure them you'll find solutions. Spiritual awakening is a complex and deeply personal journey. It takes time and focus to reach our full potential, and we don't always get it right the first time. That's perfectly fine. It's common to encounter blocks along the way, but recognizing and addressing them will restart your awakening and move you forward.
Whether you need to do more inner work, establish a meditation practice, or unblock your ego, taking proactive steps will reignite your spiritual progress. If you feel you need some extra help in this area, I specialize in unblocking awakenings. You can find details of my coaching services in the description to this video. And meanwhile, you might want to watch this next.